Everyone in Westport assumed the quiet man wandering the shoreline was just another forgotten soul. To a group of reckless teenagers chasing viral fame, he looked like the perfect victim. When they brutally targeted his calm German shepherd for a social media prank, they laughed, filmed every second, and sped away in a luxury SUV. What they never imagined was that the dog was a retired military K9, and the man beside him had once led some of the world's most dangerous special operations missions. Westport, Connecticut, was a town where wealth shaped nearly every corner of life. Waterfront estates overlooked a harbor packed with gleaming yachts. Imported sports cars lined the streets, and influence often carried more weight than the law itself. Powerful families controlled businesses, local politics, and even public opinion. It was the last place anyone expected to find someone who wanted nothing to do with money or status. Jonathan Hayes blended into the background by design. At 48 years old, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had survived things few people could imagine. His weathered face, neatly trimmed gray beard, and piercing blue eyes hinted at a lifetime of hardship, while a faint limp reminded him daily of injuries that never fully healed. He wore faded flannel shirts, worn leather boots, and drove an aging pickup truck that looked ready for retirement itself. To the people of Westport, Jonathan appeared to be nothing more than a retired fisherman or an aging laborer scraping by on modest savings. He kept conversations short, avoided crowds, and preferred long walks along the shoreline over social gatherings. Most residents barely noticed him. That anonymity was exactly how he wanted it. Before disappearing into civilian life, Jonathan had spent over 20 years serving as a Navy SEAL captain attached to one of America's most elite special operations units. His missions had taken him through deserts, mountains, jungles, and hostile cities across the globe. Many of those operations remained classified, their details buried behind government secrecy. He had seen enough violence for several lifetimes. Retirement wasn't an escape from duty. It was a search for peace. The only companion he truly trusted was Kaiser. The 90-pound German shepherd walked beside Jonathan everywhere, never needing a leash or loud commands. Kaiser wasn't an ordinary pet. He had served as a Tier 1 military working dog, trained for explosive detection, suspect apprehension, and high-risk combat operations. Years of deployments had forged him into a disciplined partner whose instincts were as sharp as ever. A long scar stretched across the dog's left shoulder, the lasting reminder of an explosion during a mission overseas. Jonathan carried scars from that same day, both visible and invisible. They had survived together, protected each other countless times, and built a bond stronger than words. Their communication was almost effortless. A subtle hand movement guided Kaiser into a perfect heel. A slight change in Jonathan's posture was enough to tell the dog to stay, move, or stand down. To strangers, it simply looked like remarkable obedience. In reality, it was years of combat training and complete mutual trust. Their small cabin sat at the edge of town where the marshland met the sea. The weathered home overlooked quiet water instead of expensive mansions. Jonathan preferred repairing fishing gear, reading old novels, and watching sunsets with Kaiser rather than attending charity galas or yacht parties. The peaceful routine suited both of them. Unfortunately, peace rarely lasts when arrogance comes looking for entertainment. 19-year-old Trent Harrington believed Westport belonged to him. His father, Arthur Harrington, was a billionaire hedge fund manager whose influence reached nearly every important office in town. Local officials rarely challenged the Harrington family, and Trent had grown up believing consequences were something that happened only to other people. Expensive gifts replaced discipline. Luxury replaced responsibility. For barely graduating from an elite private academy, Trent received a matte black Mercedes G-Wagon worth more than most houses. He flaunted it constantly, racing through neighborhoods, parking wherever he pleased, and treating public spaces like private property. His closest companions were Logan Pierce and Bryce Miller. Logan loved attention almost as much as Trent did. Armed with a smartphone and thousands of social media followers, he constantly searched for outrageous content guaranteed to generate likes and comments. Bryce lacked Trent's confidence, but eagerly followed along, unwilling to risk losing his place in the wealthy social circle. Together, they had become notorious around Westport. They mocked workers, harassed tourists, vandalized parks, and recorded humiliating pranks for online entertainment. Whenever complaints surfaced, expensive lawyers made problems disappear before they reached a courtroom. Late one humid Tuesday afternoon in July, Jonathan and Kaiser followed their familiar route through Centennial Park, a peaceful stretch of green overlooking the harbor. Jonathan settled onto a weathered wooden bench beneath a towering oak tree, opening a battered paperback novel he had nearly finished. Kaiser rested calmly beside him in the cool grass, ears relaxed but alert, quietly observing joggers, families, and passing boats. The afternoon was perfectly still. Then the roar of an engine shattered the silence. A matte black G-Wagon bounced over the curb and rolled directly onto the grass, ignoring posted signs and startled pedestrians. Music blasted from open windows before the vehicle came to a sudden stop. The door swung open. Trent, Logan, and Bryce climbed out laughing loudly, their movements unsteady from drinking long before the legal age allowed it. Logan immediately lifted his phone, beginning another live stream. "We need something huge today," Trent complained as he scanned the park. "The last prank barely got any views." Bryce shrugged nervously. "Maybe we should just head to the beach." "That's boring," Trent replied with a grin. His eyes swept across the open lawn until they landed beneath the massive oak tree. A quiet man in faded flannel sat reading without looking up. Beside him rested a large German shepherd marked by old battle scars. Slowly, a cruel smile spread across Trent Harrington's face. He had just found what he believed would be the perfect target for his next viral video. "Look at this loser," Trent sneered, grinning as Logan pointed his phone toward the quiet man beneath the oak tree. "He acts like he owns the whole park." Logan laughed while reading the flood of comments on his live stream. "So what's the plan?" Trent casually tossed his heavy stainless steel water bottle from one hand to the other, his smile turning cruel. "We wake up the dog. Let's see if that oversized mutt has any fight in him." The three teenagers crossed the perfectly trimmed lawn without a second thought, laughing loudly as they approached the shaded bench. Jonathan Hayes never looked up from his book. He had noticed them long before they reached him. The slam of expensive SUV doors, the careless shouting, the uneven footsteps of young men who believed the world belonged to them. He had registered every detail within seconds. At his feet, Kaiser remained lying in the grass. Only his ears moved. The German shepherd slowly lifted his head, amber eyes shifting toward Jonathan. He waited silently for instructions. Jonathan lowered two fingers, almost imperceptibly. "Stay." Without hesitation, Kaiser rested his head back on the grass. To anyone watching, the dog appeared relaxed. Only Jonathan could see the subtle tension gathering beneath Kaiser's calm posture. Every muscle was prepared to react instantly if necessary. "Hey, old man." Trent stopped several feet away, expecting immediate attention. Jonathan quietly turned another page. He didn't acknowledge him. Logan burst into laughter. "I think he's deaf. Or maybe just too dumb to answer," Trent mocked. He stepped even closer until he stood only a few feet from Kaiser. "Leash your ugly dog," he demanded. "This is a public park, and I don't feel safe." Jonathan carefully placed a bookmark inside his novel before closing it. He rested the book across his lap and finally looked up. His expression was unreadable. No anger, no fear, no irritation. Just complete, disciplined calm. "The dog is under control," Jonathan said quietly. His deep, steady voice carried without effort. "I suggest you step away and enjoy the rest of your afternoon." Trent scoffed and glanced toward Logan's phone to make sure the camera captured everything. "You suggest I leave?" He laughed. "Do you have any idea who my father is? I could have you thrown out of this park before sunset." Jonathan never blinked. "I don't care who your father is." His voice remained perfectly even. "Step back from the dog." The simple response ignited Trent's temper. People always back down. Teachers did. Store managers did. Even police officers usually did after hearing the Harrington name. This man hadn't flinched. Trent took another deliberate step forward until the toe of his expensive sneaker hovered inches from Kaiser's nose. Or what? He challenged with a smirk. What exactly are you going to do? He pointed down at the German shepherd. And what's this stupid mutt going to do? Several feet behind him, Bryce suddenly felt uneasy. Something wasn't right. Most people would have argued, shouted, or tried to leave. Jonathan Hayes did none of those things. He simply watched. Still, patient, controlled. Bryce couldn't explain why, but the silence felt dangerous. He leaned toward Trent. Maybe we should go, he said quietly. This doesn't feel... Shut up, Bryce. Trent never took his eyes off Jonathan. His grin widened. Ugly dog. Without warning, he drew his leg back and drove a powerful kick toward Kaiser's ribs. The strike never landed. In a blur of disciplined speed, Kaiser rolled smoothly backward, avoiding the kick by mere inches. He didn't bark. He didn't snap. He simply repositioned himself with flawless precision. Every movement controlled by years of elite military training. The laughter around the live stream stopped. For the first time that afternoon, the prank wasn't unfolding the way Trent Harrington had planned. Kaiser didn't retreat. Instead, the retired military K9 reacted exactly as years of elite training had conditioned him to. A thunderous bark exploded across the park, deep enough to make nearby birds scatter from the trees. In one fluid motion, Kaiser lunged forward, just enough to snap his powerful jaws inches from Trent's shin. A perfectly controlled warning strike. He never made contact. Trent let out a startled cry and stumbled backward, nearly falling onto the grass. His expensive sunglasses flew from his face as Logan burst into laughter behind the phone. Dude, he almost nailed you. Logan shouted, barely able to contain himself. The live stream chat erupted with comments. Trent's face burned crimson. Humiliation quickly replaced surprise. He couldn't stand being laughed at, especially in front of thousands of viewers. His eyes dropped to the heavy stainless steel water bottle in his hand. Filled to the brim, it weighed nearly 3 pounds. Without thinking, and before Jonathan could issue another command, Trent rushed forward. With all his strength, he swung the bottle like a club. The metal slammed into the side of Kaiser's head with a sickening crack. The German shepherd cried out in pain and collapsed heavily onto the grass. Blood immediately seeped from beneath his left ear, staining the tan fur around his neck. Kaiser tried to push himself back onto his feet, but his legs trembled violently beneath him. You like that? Trent yelled, his face twisted with rage. Stupid, he never finished. In less than a heartbeat, the quiet man on the bench disappeared. Jonathan Hayes moved with explosive speed. His right hand shot forward like a piston, locking around Trent's throat with crushing force. The teenager's feet left the ground. His eyes widened in pure disbelief as the steel bottle slipped from his fingers and landed in the grass with a dull thud. Jonathan drove him backward until his body slammed against the thick oak tree. The impact forced every ounce of air from Trent's lungs. He clawed desperately at Jonathan's wrist, but the grip didn't budge. It felt like solid granite. Jonathan stepped closer until only inches separated their faces. The calm expression was gone. His eyes had become cold, focused, and utterly merciless. Behind them, Bryce stumbled backward. Logan, he shouted in panic. Logan's hand shook so badly that the phone slipped from his grip, ending the live stream as it tumbled into the dirt. Jonathan never looked away from Trent. His voice dropped to a low whisper that carried more menace than a scream ever could. If you ever touch my dog again. He tightened his grip, just enough to make Trent freeze. I will break you apart, piece by piece. The words were calm, certain, terrifying. Do you understand me? Trent couldn't answer. His face had turned purple, and tears streamed down his cheeks as he struggled for air. The only response he could manage was a frantic nod. Jonathan held him there for another long second, allowing the reality of the situation to sink in completely. Then he released him. Trent collapsed to the ground in a coughing heap, clutching his bruised throat while desperately pulling air back into his lungs. Jonathan didn't spare him another glance. He immediately knelt beside Kaiser. Blood continued to trickle from the dog's ear as he panted heavily. Jonathan's hands became gentle, carefully examining the side of Kaiser's skull with practiced precision, searching for signs of serious fracture. "Easy, buddy," he murmured softly. "Stay with me." He removed a clean handkerchief from his pocket and pressed it firmly against the wound to slow the bleeding. Several yards away, Trent slowly climbed to his feet. The terror that had filled his eyes moments earlier was already giving way to humiliation and revenge. Supported by Logan and Bryce, he staggered toward the waiting Mercedes. "This isn't over," he rasped through painful coughs, pointing an unsteady finger toward Jonathan. "You're finished. My father will destroy you, and that vicious dog is going to be put down." Jonathan never turned around. His entire focus remained on Kaiser. Seconds later, the teenagers piled into the G-Wagon. The engine roared to life, tires ripping across the carefully maintained lawn as the SUV sped out of Centennial Park. Silence returned beneath the old oak tree. Only Jonathan and his wounded partner remained. Jonathan pressed the blood-soaked cloth gently against Kaiser's head as the German shepherd let out a quiet whimper. Despite the pain, Kaiser reached forward and softly licked Jonathan's wrist, as if trying to reassure the man instead of seeking comfort himself. Jonathan looked down at the blood, covering his hands. Then his eyes drifted toward the deep tire marks carved into the park's grass, where the black Mercedes G-Wagon had disappeared only minutes earlier. He had spent 3 years trying to build a peaceful life. He had walked away from classified missions, endless deployments, and more violence than any man should witness. All he had wanted was a quiet cabin by the marsh in the company of the dog who had survived every battlefield beside him. That peace had just been shattered. Without another word, Jonathan reached into his jacket and removed an old burner phone. The device had remained untouched for years. He entered a number from memory and waited. The call lasted less than 30 seconds. There were no lengthy explanations, no emotional speeches, only a few calm sentences. When Jonathan ended the call, he slipped the phone back into his pocket and continued tending to Kaiser. Across Westport, no one, not the mayor, not the police chief, and certainly not billionaire Arthur Harrington, had any idea that events had already been set into motion. They believed they had intimidated the lonely veteran. Instead, they had awakened a man with connections reaching far beyond their quiet coastal town. The Harrington estate overlooked Long Island Sound from a sprawling 20-acre property surrounded by towering iron gates, perfectly manicured gardens, and imported stone pathways. Every room reflected generations of wealth and unquestioned privilege. Inside his mahogany-paneled study, Arthur Harrington slammed a crystal tumbler onto his desk so hard that expensive whiskey splashed across polished wood. "He did what to you?" His voice thundered through the room. Standing before him, Trent wore a silk scarf wrapped loosely around his neck, drawing attention to the bruises forming across his throat. His performance was flawless. A few drops of water on his cheeks mimicked tears. His voice trembled with carefully rehearsed weakness. "We were just walking through the park," he whispered. "Logan and Bryce were with me. This homeless guy had a huge dog running loose. It attacked me for no reason." Arthur's expression darkened. "I grabbed my water bottle to protect myself," Trent continued smoothly. "Then the man grabbed my throat and tried to kill me." The lie flowed effortlessly. Neither Logan nor Bryce dared contradict him. Arthur wasn't simply hearing that his son had been assaulted. In his mind, someone had challenged the Harrington family's authority. That was unacceptable. "Did you get his name?" Arthur asked coldly. Trent shook his head. "No, but he lives in that little cabin out near the salt marsh. He's the guy with the limp." Arthur picked up his private phone without hesitation. He already knew exactly who to call. The number belonged to Chief Dale Lawson of the Westport Police Department. Lawson answered almost immediately. "Chief, Dale," Arthur said. "We have a problem." He spoke with complete confidence, as though giving instructions to an employee. "A violent drifter assaulted my son this afternoon. He also has a dangerous dog that attacked him. I want the man arrested tonight, and I want that animal seized before it hurts someone else." A brief silence followed. Then came the response Arthur expected. "I understand, Mr. Harrington," Lawson replied. "I'll handle it personally." Arthur ended the call without another word. As far as he was concerned, the matter was already settled. several miles away. Evening fog slowly rolled across the salt marsh, surrounding Jonathan's weathered cabin in silence. Inside, the room smelled faintly of antiseptic and burning cedar. Kaiser rested on a thick orthopedic bed beside the fireplace. Jonathan had already cleaned the wound using a compact military medical kit stored inside an old footlocker. The laceration had required several careful stitches. Fortunately, the metal bottle had narrowly missed the eye socket, but the impact had still caused a serious concussion. Kaiser's breathing remained slow. His eyes were dull with pain. Every quiet whimper tightened something deep inside Jonathan. For more than 20 years, he had survived impossible situations by controlling every emotion. Discipline had kept him alive through firefights, ambushes, and missions few people would ever know existed. But seeing the loyal dog who had once detected hidden explosives, protected entire teams, and saved countless lives lying injured because of one spoiled young man's arrogance tested that discipline more than any battlefield ever had. The burner phone rested silently on the coffee table. Jonathan hadn't called the local police. He already knew how influence worked in towns like Westport. Instead, he had contacted Admiral Thomas Reed. Years earlier, Reed had commanded several of Jonathan's most dangerous operations. More importantly, he owed Jonathan a life debt that had never been forgotten. The cabin remained quiet. Then Kaiser's ears suddenly lifted. A deep, rumbling growl rolled from the German shepherd's chest as both dog and handler sensed that someone was approaching outside. Jonathan rose from his chair in a single smooth motion. The grieving dog owner disappeared. In his place stood the disciplined operator who had spent decades surviving the world's most dangerous missions. Outside, tires crunched across the gravel driveway. A moment later came the heavy slam of car doors. Blue and red emergency lights flashed through the cabin windows, painting the walls in alternating bursts of color. Jonathan quietly walked to the front door and opened it before anyone could knock. Standing on the porch was Chief Dale Lawson, flanked by 3 armed deputies. Their hands rested near their holstered sidearms, their posture already aggressive. Lawson looked Jonathan up and down with open contempt. "You Jonathan Hayes?" "Yes." Lawson stepped closer. "Turn around. Put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest for aggravated assault, attempted murder, and keeping a dangerous animal." He pulled a pair of handcuffs from his duty belt. "And bring out the dog. Animal control will be taking custody of it." Jonathan remained perfectly still. "The teenager attacked my dog with a metal bottle," he replied evenly. "Kaiser is a retired military working dog. He's fully registered and legally owned." Lawson waved the explanation away. "I don't care what paperwork you've got." His voice hardened. "You picked the wrong family to fight." Jonathan met the chief's stare without blinking. "Chief, you're standing on private property." His calm tone somehow felt more intimidating than a shout. "I won't resist arrest, but no one enters my home or harms my dog." For a brief second, silence settled over the porch. Even the deputies exchanged uneasy glances. There was something unsettling about the man's composure. Lawson forced a laugh. "You're threatening law enforcement." He shook his head. "You're just an old man with a limp." He motioned toward his deputies. "Cuff him." The 2 deputies stepped forward and took hold of Jonathan's arms. Just as he had promised, he offered no resistance. The steel cuffs clicked shut around his wrists. His expression never changed. Without ceremony, they escorted him toward the waiting patrol car and placed him in the back seat. Lawson turned toward the cabin. "Go get the dog." One deputy cautiously climbed the porch steps. The instant he reached the doorway, a deep, explosive growl echoed from inside the cabin. Kaiser emerged from the shadows. Despite the fresh stitches on his head and the lingering effects of the concussion, the 90-pound German shepherd stood tall, ears forward and eyes locked on the stranger. The deputy froze. His hand instinctively moved toward his pistol. Jonathan spoke from the patrol car. "Leave him inside." His voice carried effortlessly across the yard. "Close the door. He'll stay exactly where he is until I come home." Lawson hesitated. Trying to seize a trained military dog in a confined cabin suddenly seemed far less appealing. Arthur Harrington wanted Jonathan arrested. The dog could wait until morning. "Forget it," Lawson snapped. "Lock the cabin." The deputy slowly backed away before pulling the front door shut. Lawson walked to the patrol car and leaned toward the open window. A smug smile spread across his face. "Enjoy your night in jail, Hayes." He straightened his uniform. "As far as this town is concerned, your life is finished." The convoy rolled away from the marsh, emergency lights reflecting across the dark water. As the vehicles disappeared into the night, something small remained lying beside the front steps. A worn military dog tag glinted beneath the flashing lights before darkness swallowed it once more. Neither Lawson nor his deputies noticed. Hours later, Jonathan arrived at the Westport Police Department. The building's glass walls and polished brick exterior projected professionalism and public trust. Inside, however, loyalty often followed money rather than justice. Jonathan was escorted into a small interrogation room. The handcuffs remained locked tightly around his wrists. He was seated alone beneath bright fluorescent lights, with nothing but a steel table, 2 chairs, and a large two-way mirror covering one wall. Minutes turned into hours. Jonathan never complained. He didn't ask for an attorney. He didn't request a phone call. He simply sat in complete silence, occasionally glancing toward the wall clock as its steady ticking measured the passing time. Outside the room, officers came and went. Some glanced through the observation window, expecting frustration or anger. Instead, they found a man sitting perfectly still, waiting. Exactly at 9 o'clock that evening, the interrogation room door opened. It wasn't a detective who stepped inside, and the moment the newcomer entered, the balance of power inside the police station began to shift. The interrogation room door opened slowly. It wasn't a detective who entered. Arthur Harrington walked inside wearing a perfectly tailored Italian suit, every step radiating wealth, confidence, and unquestioned authority. Behind him stood Chief Dale Lawson, silent and obedient, like a loyal employee rather than the town's highest-ranking police officer. Arthur pulled out the chair across from Jonathan and sat down without asking permission. He folded his hands together and studied the man before him with a look of complete contempt. "Do you know who I am?" he asked calmly. Jonathan met his gaze without hesitation. "You're a man who never taught his son the difference between privilege and character." Arthur's jaw tightened. For a brief moment, anger flashed across his face before he forced another smile. "You still don't understand your situation." He leaned forward. "By tomorrow morning, you'll be charged with assaulting my son and attempting to kill him. By tomorrow afternoon, your dog will be taken away and destroyed." His voice remained cold and measured. "And all of this happened because you forgot your place." Jonathan remained perfectly composed. "Your son attacked Kaiser first." He struck him with steel bottle. Arthur dismissed the statement with a wave of his hand. "It doesn't matter." His calm mask finally cracked. "The truth is whatever I decide it is." He pointed toward the floor. "I influenced the mayor." He pointed toward the wall beyond the interrogation room. "The police answer to me." Then he smiled. "You have nothing." Jonathan tilted his head slightly. "I wouldn't be so certain." Before Arthur could respond, a deafening crash echoed through the hallway. The interrogation room door burst inward with enough force to slam against the wall. Chief Lawson instinctively reached toward his sidearm before freezing in place. For federal agents wearing tactical jackets entered the room with disciplined precision. Though their weapons remained holstered, every movement reflected years of professional training. Behind them walked a tall naval officer in an immaculate dress uniform. The silver stars on his shoulders identified him as a rear admiral. Arthur shot to his feet. "What is the meaning of this?" He pointed angrily toward the newcomers. "Chief Lawson, arrest these men immediately." Lawson didn't move. His confidence had vanished. His eyes shifted nervously between the federal agents and the admiral. I can't do that, sir," he muttered. "They're federal personnel." The admiral ignored both Arthur and Lawson. Instead, he walked directly to Jonathan. His stern expression softened ever so slightly. "Captain Hayes." He extended his hand. "My apologies for the delay. Air traffic out of Washington slowed us down." Jonathan accepted the handshake. "No apology necessary, Admiral." Arthur stared in disbelief. "Captain." His voice cracked with confusion. "What are you talking about?" He pointed toward Jonathan. "He's just some drifter." Only then did Admiral Thomas Reed turn toward the billionaire. His expression became ice cold. "The man you're looking at is Captain Jonathan Hayes, United States Navy. He is the recipient of the Navy Cross, 2 Silver Stars, and the Purple Heart. He has participated in missions that remain classified to this day." The room fell silent. Every deputy stared at Jonathan with new eyes. Arthur struggled to process what he had just heard. Finally, he found his voice. "I don't care what medals he has." His words sounded far less confident than before. "He assaulted my son. I have witnesses." One of the federal agents stepped forward, carrying a sealed evidence bag. Inside rested a cracked smartphone, with dirt still clinging to its edges. The agent placed it gently on the metal table. "You're referring to Logan Pierce?" Arthur nodded cautiously. "Mr. Pierce accidentally dropped this phone while fleeing Centennial Park." The agent looked directly at Arthur before continuing. The device was live streaming the entire incident. He paused. The original recording was automatically backed up to a secure cloud server before the phone was damaged. Another moment of silence filled the room. Then the agent delivered the words that caused the color to drain from Arthur Harrington's face. "Every second of what actually happened has been preserved." The balance of power inside the interrogation room shifted instantly. For the first time in many years, Arthur Harrington realized that money could no longer control the truth. "We recovered the live stream from the cloud," the FBI agent said calmly. He tapped the screen of a tablet, and the room filled with unmistakable audio. Trent's voice echoed through the interrogation room. "Asterisk, let's wake the dog up. See if the mutt has any fight in him." Asterisk, no one spoke. The video continued. Arthur Harrington watched in stunned silence as the footage showed Jonathan sitting quietly beneath the oak tree, reading a book and making every effort to avoid confrontation. Then the recording captured Trent stepping forward. It showed him raising the heavy stainless steel bottle, and it showed him swinging it with full force into the head of a resting German shepherd that had done absolutely nothing to provoke the attack. The recording left nothing to interpretation. It also captured Jonathan's response. His movement was fast, precise, and completely controlled. He neutralized the immediate threat without continuing the confrontation once Trent was no longer a danger. When the video ended, silence settled over the room. Admiral Thomas Reed folded his hands behind his back. "Your son committed a serious federal offense by intentionally attacking a federally protected retired military working dog." His voice remained calm. "He also committed aggravated assault with a deadly weapon." Arthur's confidence disappeared. His mouth opened, but no words came. Finally, he swallowed hard. "There has to be a way to resolve this." He forced a nervous smile. "It was a misunderstanding." He looked directly at the Admiral. "I'm a reasonable man. I can make a substantial donation to any military charity you choose." The lead FBI agent interrupted before Reed could answer. "Keep your money, Mr. Harrington." He placed another folder on the table. "You're going to need it." Arthur frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means that while we were responding to this investigation, federal agents executed additional search warrants at several of your corporate offices." The agent opened the folder. What began as an animal cruelty investigation uncovered something much larger. He calmly listed the findings. Offshore shell corporations, wire fraud, financial conspiracy, and evidence suggesting the bribery of multiple public officials. Arthur staggered backward until his knees struck the chair behind him. He looked desperately toward Chief Lawson. The police chief couldn't even meet his eyes. Another FBI agent stepped beside Lawson. "Chief Dale Lawson." The agent removed a pair of handcuffs. "You are under arrest for corruption, abuse of official authority, false imprisonment, and related federal offenses." Lawson's shoulders slumped. Without resistance, he slowly turned around and placed his hands behind his back. The handcuffs clicked shut. Arthur's breathing became shallow. The man who had spent decades controlling everyone around him suddenly realized he controlled nothing. His carefully built empire was collapsing in front of him. Jonathan remained seated. He hadn't smiled. He hadn't celebrated. He simply watched in silence. Admiral Reed reached into his pocket and removed a small handcuff key. With a quiet click, Jonathan's restraints fell away. "Let's get you home, Captain," Reed said. "We've already arranged for a military veterinarian to examine Kaiser. He'll receive the best care available." Jonathan rubbed his sore wrists before standing. He towered over Arthur, who now looked defeated and exhausted. For a moment, the billionaire waited for a lecture, an insult, a victory speech. None came. Jonathan simply walked past him. Sometimes silence carried more weight than any words ever could. 2 weeks later, Westport looked very different. For days, newspapers and television stations focused on only one story: the fall of the Harrington Empire. Trent Harrington remained in county jail awaiting trial on multiple criminal charges, including animal cruelty and assault. Arthur Harrington's financial assets had been frozen as investigators expanded their examination of his business dealings. Several associates had already begun cooperating with federal authorities. Chief Dale Lawson accepted responsibility for corruption-related offenses in hopes of receiving a reduced sentence. The influence that once ruled Westport had disappeared almost overnight. Meanwhile, life near the salt marsh slowly returned to normal. The morning sun shimmered across the calm waters of Long Island Sound. Jonathan Hayes walked quietly along the shoreline with his hands tucked inside the pockets of his faded jacket. His familiar limp remained, a permanent reminder of battles long behind him. Beside him walked Kaiser. The German shepherd's ear was still neatly bandaged, but his stride was strong once again. His amber eyes were bright, alert, and full of life. A seagull swooped low over the water with a loud cry. Kaiser's ears lifted instinctively. For a brief moment, he tracked the bird. Then he calmly returned his attention to Jonathan without breaking formation. Jonathan smiled faintly. He reached down and gently scratched behind Kaiser's ear. The dog leaned into the touch and released a long, contented sigh. Together, they stood facing the endless blue horizon. They had endured war. They had survived violence. And after years spent carrying invisible burdens, they had finally found the peace they had been searching for. In the end, the truth proved stronger than money, influence, or intimidation. Power built on fear eventually crumbles, but loyalty, integrity, and courage leave a legacy that cannot be bought. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who appreciates stories where justice ultimately prevails over arrogance and abuse of power.